With Donald Trump having ended his tour of the Middle East, Syrians are now looking forward to a future without sanctions after the US president announced an unprecedented lifting of the onerous measures. The decision comes months after longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad was toppled and fled the country. So are people feeling optimistic about what's ahead of them? Omar Alshogre is a human rights advocate and survived the horrors of Syria's notorious Sednaya Prison, and he joins me now from Stockholm. Omar, welcome back to the program. Good to have you with us.
Good evening, Girish.
Now, let's go to the sanctions first. We saw celebrations on the streets of Damascus when Donald Trump said he would lift them. How big is this for the Syrian people, and will it change, their day-to-day lives?
This is as big as it gets in these days. Since the fall of the Assad regime, this is the biggest and the most important news that happened in Syria. The Syrian life has been affected by these sanctions for such a long time, even before, before Bashar al-Assad himself. The sanctions have been imposed since the 80s. But they were more extreme during the Assad, when the Assad was bombing its people in 2011 and onward. So now, the Syrian people are hoping that, the value of the currency would go a little bit higher, and it did. It went like from 20,000 for a dollar to actually 10,000 for a dollar in just a couple of days because of those announcements. But also there's the optimisms that now it will be able to deal with the world. Now Syria is relatively open to the world, and that's the most important thing. Companies will be able to come and invest, and companies will be able to come and help with the reconstruction. There's nothing more important than having a home today. Having someone help you build your own home and have electricity and food and so on. So it's the biggest thing that could happen at this moment.
Yes, and how did you yourself feel when you saw those, the sanctions being lifted as well? Were you as excited as the people we've just been seeing on screen?
Well, to be a little bit accurate, the sanctions is not fully lifted yet. The announcement was so clear that there is actually a will to lift all these sanctions. Like 2 hours before Trump made that statement, I was in a panel talking about we must lift these sanctions to allow Syrians to have a chance for a better future. And then Trump did it. And I will tell you, I wasn't expecting it from Trump, And the most funny moment about it is actually I was seeing videos of Syrians on the street dancing like Trump on the street. And I can tell you lots of Syrians don't necessarily have love in their heart for Trump, but for that particular move of lifting the sanctions, they were dancing like him on the streets.
Yeah, these are rather extraordinary times. Now, how significant was it then, for the current interim leader, Ahmed Al-Sharaa, to be seen on the world stage in Saudi Arabia, standing with the US president?
Well, he declined to go to Iraq to the Arab nations meeting to be there because of the significance of the U.S. government recognizing and normalizing its relationship with the Syrian government. And we have to also keep in mind that this is the first Syrian president that meets an American president in 25 years. So it's very important. It was cleverly played by the current president in Syria, Ahmed Alshogre, because he knew if the United States doesn't normalize its relationship with Syria, the West in general will be very hesitant about it. So it was the right move, and I think the United States is important, even though the United States have not done everything they could to help us, survive the bombardment and the killing that we went through under Assad. But today it's a new world that we live in regards to Syria, and we want all the possible help. And having a good relationship with the U.S. would lead us to, hopefully, for a better situation in Syria.
Yes. Omar, more than 6 months since, the fall of Assad, I do want to ask you and get your assessment of Ahmed al-Shara's leadership thus far. I mean, this is a man who has a controversial image, who goes from, freedom fighter to a jihadist who once fought for al-Qaeda. What do you make of what he's done so far in the past 6 months or so?
Look, Girish, I am positively surprised about their achievements so far, considering the mass destruction, both in buildings, but also in the human that exists in Syria after 14 years of being slaughtered and tortured and starved. So I was surprised that they're doing things faster than we thought they would do, and they managed to actually lift the sanctions. I never thought, because he's like on the hit list for America. There's $10 million on his head. And yet he managed to meet the US president and to lift most of the sanctions and so on. So the performance is really good. But then as Syrians, we keep in mind that This is not a democratically elected leader. And we will not be able to have democracy today because we won't be able to have elections in the coming few years because there's no statistics. We don't know how many Syrians we are. We don't know how many people can vote. We don't know who's alive, who's dead. There's, hundreds of thousands of people lost somewhere. And some of them we confirm their death and some of them we don't know. So it's going to take time before we have the right and the possibility to have elections. But when it's then, the election, that's when you know if he's a good leader or a bad leader. If there's no mess being done with the elections and we manage to, he may be elected because Syrians also think while the West has democracies in the world left us die, be tortured, bombed with chemical weapons. This guy, who the West considered as a terrorist, have liberated us, saved our lives, liberated the political prisoners. So Syrians will always have respect for him because he led the most important operation that saved their future, their life, for the first time in 54 years.
And of course, it's not been easy for him, though, because there have been outbreaks of sectarian violence over the past few months with civilians and fighters from some of the smaller communities like the Alawites, the Druze being killed, but also, I would say, government forces as well. So do you think Ahmed al-Sharaa has what it takes to handle this current situation?
It seems like I have a bad connection, but if you still hear me, I will tell you that I think he has managed to not start additional conflicts to what we already have. He managed to have an agreement with the Kurdish forces. He is in discussions with the Kurds, so that with the Druze in the south. So far, it's been impressive what they have done, what the current government has done to mitigate the risks that exist in Syria. And we always hope for better. We always hope for the best possible government and person to lead us in Syria because we deserve the freedom and democracy that we went out to the street for, we've been tortured for. But that's what we have right now, and I think it's doing decently well, and I think he has what it takes to unite Syria.
Omar, let's go to what you are doing as well. I mean, you are looking into detaining affairs. You spoke of the hundreds of thousands of people who are lost. Can I get a sense of, has there been progress in this area?
Well, timely question. Yesterday, the government has, announced that there will be formation of a committee that will be working on finding the truth about the ones that were forcibly disappeared and never came back. So that's very important. And also, it's not enough to start something. It's necessary that this something is actually independent and has the means to operate. So it's like 1 day old. So we have to wait for a couple of months to give it time to operate and see. But it's very important that a government in Syria cannot do that much if the people are not cooperating. And it's very important. That's why the government has to establish very strong relationship with the people, so the people contribute and help this government to achieve the freedom and justice that we want. But if we keep, seeing them acting weirdly, and then we are skeptic about them, we take distance from the government, that we will reach nothing in Syria. So it's very important that we come to a level where we believe this government is worth trusting. We're trusted, then we'll cooperate. That's when we'll reach the justice and the truth that we're looking for.
Okay, I do wish you well in that endeavor. Omar Alshogre, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.